this is a huge piece. This is where sales is so much more than just two people coming together. And it really is a relationship. And in my book, I talk a lot about how the only good sale is one that leads to the next sale. Because if you think about this, if you've developed a good reputation and you're handling people with integrity and trust, now that doesn't mean that you can't be a hard negotiator. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just doing it with a sense of clarity.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to Weiss Advice. I am your host, Yona Weiss. I have today with me Mark Hunter, the sales champion, the sales hunter, I guess is really what we call him, which is a great play on words of your name. It's kind of like the Weiss Advice. You know, you're the sales hunter, Mark Hunter. He's, considered one of the top 50 most influential sales and marketing leaders in the world, author of Mind for Sales and a new book, which I'd love for you plug over here, which you just published recently. So thank you for coming to the show, Mark.
Hey, thank you for having me on. And we're going to have a great conversation if the pre-show is anything as good as we had. I mean, it's great. I love it.
The great thing about the pre-show is I always record them because I hit the record button right at the beginning because you never want to miss anything.
Yeah.
And I actually missed once, I forgot to hit the record button once at the beginning, and I had to redo the whole episode. So that's why I always hit it right at the beginning for those two reasons. And but no, it's a pleasure to have you on. I know you've been in sales for decades, worked with companies from startups to Fortune 100 companies, and everything in between. How did you know that this was your calling?
You know what? I didn't know it was my calling. I mean, if you stop and think, how many of you, I don't know too many people who as kids said, I want to be a salesperson. You want to be a fireman, you want to be a police officer, you want to be, but you really don't want to be a salesperson. I got into sales, and I talk about it in my book, A Mind for Sales, only because of the Seattle Police Department. And this is years ago. This is not anything recent. This is decades ago.
Right.
The Seattle Police Department, I got too many speeding tickets. And nobody was hurt. Nobody was harmed. I couldn't afford car insurance. I could not afford car insurance. So I had to get a job that supplied me with a car. And so what was interesting was that meant most likely a sales job. First two sales jobs I had, I got fired from. Yeah. How's that? Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
But what I figured out is sales is about helping people. And when you really realize it's about creating a relationship and having a conversation, and I don't care what business we're in, that's really what the business of business is. It's relationships.
Mm-hmm. It's having those conversations and just getting to know people.
It is
finding out what the points that, that they're struggling with, and that just comes up.
Yeah. One of the reasons I got fired from my first couple of jobs is because I went into sales thinking customers were like bowling pins, and they were just meant to be knocked over as fast as you can and move on to the next customer. That's not really a way to win friends and influence people. I mean, it just doesn't work. So I really had to take a step back, and it was my boss on my third job who really said, you have to really invest in listening to people. Mm-hmm. And when you listen to people, they'll share with you, because here's the whole thing. Sales is about really two people coming together and creating an outcome that's going to be beneficial for both parties. That's really what sales is.
Absolutely.
And I don't care what it is. We're all in sales doing it every day. But it's people connecting with people. To me, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. And I love how you frame it, because everything in the end of the day, everything is sales. When, if you want to try to convince someone of something else, you want to try to help someone in a certain way, even if you don't look at it like that. If I want to get my kids to take their medicine, or to get to bed on time, or to get dressed and go to school, it's a sale, in a way. I have to I have to, and if you look at it that way, you have to relate to them in a way that you understand where they're coming from, that and get them to do something, even if which essentially is going to be best for them.
It is, and that's what they have to realize, that it's best for them, and you can't jam that down. Okay, if you got kids, you can jam it down the throat. I'm their parent, but it doesn't work. It doesn't. Let me tell you something. I've had teenagers. It doesn't work. Okay, so anyway, just parental advice there. Here's the whole thing. It has to be mutually beneficial, especially in this world we live in, where there's so much information out on the internet. Everything, if you're not totally transparent, it's amazing how you're seen very quickly as a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever type
Yeah.
of activity you're in, your reputation arrives before you do. This is the big thing I tell people. Your reputation arrives before you do. And that's a little bit creepy. So if you stop and think about it, what do other people say about you? What does the internet say about you? But
Mm-hmm.
boy, that drives a tremendous amount of relationships in terms of the quality and the depth and what ultimately is going to come out of it.
So when you're traveling around all over the world, speaking and giving sales training, which now might be a little bit on the the up and up, right? You're doing a lot virtually. I assume you've kind of pivoted in that direction, like everyone else. But and you say your reputation travels before you when you get there. But is it also like is that, would you consider that the first impression, or when you actually come and meet them for the first time, is that really the first impression?
Well, you know what? We all grew up that, our parents always told us, make a good first impression, make a good first impression. And that was always, how you shake their hand and how you, that first 10 seconds.
Exactly.
I'm really at the point now that that's the second impression. That's
Mm-hmm.
really the second impression. Really stop and think about this for a moment. Like before, you wanted to have me on as a guest. You undoubtedly went out, you Googled me. You took a look at who I am. I mean, we were connected by way of a mutual friend, and she introduced it. And same thing with me. I mean, I went out and saw who you were, and I took the advice from the mutual. So that was the first impression. So
Mm-hmm.
that face to face really becomes the second impression. And you know what? The two better line up. The two better. Oh man. I mean, we've all heard horror stories of people posting pictures on Facebook or, you know,
Right.
Instagram, whatever, that, come back to haunt them. I mean,
Right.
it just doesn't work.
So we have to be really careful, with our digital presence, probably more than ever.
Our digital reputation is really surpassing our personal reputation, which is really kind of scary,
Mm-hmm.
because other people get to shape it. So it means you
Yeah.
better hang out with some pretty decent friends. You better keep good company.
Keep good company, and I would say keep your mouth closed, or your fingers at a pause, when if you have an opinion, or you think that this might get out of hand. I mean, I can't tell you how many people, and I stay away from politics as much as possible in general in life, but especially on the internet. But I find people saying how getting into fights with strangers on the internet, through Facebook or Twitter or whatever. I don't even understand that. Thank God I have never had that experience, but it's crazy.
It's crazy because you're not going to change anybody's opinion. All you're
Mm-hmm.
going to do is let everybody know what your opinion is. And think about this. Now you go to apply for a job, you go to negotiate the sale, you go to work on this contract, you go to look at the, it is amazing how that shapes how people feel and what they think about you. And that's going to impact the outcome. That's going to impact the result of what is ultimately achieved. This is a huge piece. This is where sales is so much more than just two people coming together. And it really is a relationship. And in my book, I talk a lot about how the only good sale is one that leads to the next sale. Because if you think about
Mm-hmm.
this, if you've developed a good reputation and you're handling people with integrity and trust,
Right.
now that doesn't mean that you can't be a hard negotiator. There's nothing wrong with that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just doing it with a sense of clarity
Yeah.
and doing it. I mean, I want to negotiate the best deal I can. But here's what I found. When I negotiate the best deal I can, it means I've got to have your interests in mind. So I've got to create an outcome that works for you too. And when I create that outcome, we can negotiate a very hard deal. But you know what? It's one that works on both sides. Because I always say the best negotiation is one that creates a bigger outcome.
Okay,
You
so
walk,
right.
stop and think about that for a moment, because
Yeah.
you walk into a negotiation and we'll say that you want this property, you want this building, or you want this, whatever. And that's what you're going in with. But if you can create a bigger outcome, because not only were you able to get this building, but you were able to get first rights on something else, or you were able to get an option on something else, or you were able to help them because you've got this over here. And that, to me, that's sales at the next level.
Thinking bigger. Yeah. It's definitely thinking bigger, thinking
right.
Out of the proverbial box, and really getting, just furthering that relationship. If you look at every transaction as just simply that, a transaction, then you're just left with nothing at the end of the day, except for that transaction.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You're left with a lot of paper. That's why what I say is sell first and negotiate second. Selling is about developing the relationship. Selling is about understanding the needs, understanding the outcomes, getting all of those pieces in place. And the more I sell, really the easier the negotiation is.
All right, I'm gonna kind of dig a little deeper here into some advice on first impressions, because we talked about that a little bit before. And nowadays, a lot of people are making those first impressions not just with the reputation, because not everyone has that online reputation yet necessarily, but a lot of it through social media, and especially through interactions on social media where you might reach out to people. So as opposed to the old cold calling or the email marketing or whatever, a lot of people are using social media marketing tactics, but in the same way that they were using the email or the cold calling tactics, right? So what would you say when you're connecting with someone, you're reaching out to someone, or not, maybe not you, but someone who's new to the business, or and they're looking to make those first impressions, those first connections? What are the best, kind of best advice or best practices when doing that?
Well, what I'll use is the acronym LTS. I learned this years ago from a gentleman who shared it with me, and it's hung with me for years. LTS. First L is listen, learn. You just listen and learn. I may connect with you, but I'm not going to try to jam myself down your throat. It's called social selling. The first word is social. Let me get to know you. Okay.
Not socially awkward.
Yeah. It's listen, learn. The second, letter T is teach. I want to teach you something. Now, again, this is not lecture standpoint. No, this is teach. I want to share with you some ideas. I want to share with you some thoughts that are going to help you. Now, what am I doing here? I'm developing a relationship. I'm developing a reputation. You're seeing me as somebody who, then I get to the S, which is serve and sell. And if we take that as our guidelines for how we approach social media, then it allows us to do, this is the magic, this is the sweet spot. Your goal is to take the online connection and turn it into an offline conversation. Because when I can take the online, I've connected with you, we've developed a relationship, and we say, hey, let's have a phone call. Let's talk.
Yeah.
That to me is, wow, we've really hit the point that we've got a relationship. Yeah. And that's what so many people try to use social media is, hey, let me connect with you. And then, let me tell you about my 16,000 ways that I can help you become rich within 24 hours. Just give me your credit card. It's like, please people, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, it's worse than missing the point. It's using it in the wrong way. It's like if you have you have a powerful tool, you have a power tool, right? And you're using it as a paperweight. It, it's doing something, but it's really not doing what it's meant to be doing.
Now, here's the other piece on this, and this applies to social media. It applies to email prospecting, telephone prospecting, and so forth. if I've done research as to what are the outcomes I create? How do I help people? Not what I sell, the outcomes I create. If I've been able to understand what are the outcomes I create, and I know who that can apply to. In other words, who are the types of people, who are the types of businesses that works for. What this means is that, if I have you and you fit this profile, that means I can help you. That means I can help you. If I can help you, it's kind of my obligation to reach out and try to help you. It really is my obligation. People get so scared about, picking up the phone, calling somebody or emailing somebody. And the example I use, my daughter lives in Dallas, Texas, and she's a nurse. Some people had moved in down the street from her, about 4 houses down the street. She had not met them, didn't know who they were. She walked out her front door one night and noticed smoke coming out of their house. Well, being a nurse, she grabbed her phone, called 911, and immediately ran down to the house. She's a nurse. She wants, hey, even if she wasn't a nurse, she was just going to, again, let's make sure people are out of the house. Yeah, yeah. Now, it's interesting. She didn't know the people. She didn't say, oh, you know what? Let me see if I can connect with them on Facebook, or let me see if I can connect with them on Instagram. Maybe maybe I'll send them no, she knew she could help them. So it was her obligation to go help them immediately. Now, everybody got out of the house fine. The fire wasn't too bad. But that's an example that if you know you can help somebody, you owe it to them. But you don't owe it to them by saying, she didn't run down there and say, I'm a nurse. I can. No. She said, is everybody out of the house? How can I help you? Are there any pets in there? She went down first to serve them.
Exactly.
And see, that's what selling's all about.
Mm-hmm. How can you serve? How can you, add value? How can you help other people? And once they know who you are, they know what you do, then you figure out a way to bridge that gap that you can help them, and they need that help. It's like almost a no-brainer.
It becomes a no-brainer because then and it's interesting, but I was asking my daughter the other day, about people. She says, oh, she's become good friends with them. She's become great friends with them.
Sure.
I love it. I love it. Now, I mean, not, I'm glad the fire wasn't worse, but I'm wondering how much longer it would have taken her. Now, my daughter's pretty outgoing. She's got 2 little kids, so they're outside all the time. I wonder how much longer it would have taken her to meet those people. Who knows? Who knows?
Sure. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
So it's better to, to just go out there, even if a situation doesn't arise, you don't need a situation of life-saving.
Right. Yeah. You're not sitting around waiting for fires or accidents to happen. No, you are not the ambulance chaser. No, that's not a sales strategy.
Right. Awesome. So you got this new book, the mind for sales, which is hot off the press. Anyone can check that out. We'll put that in the show notes here, so anyone can find that. What would you say? Sum up in a couple sentences. Why would someone need this book?
It really is, because it's written from a person who didn't want to be in sales and now thoroughly loves sales. So much that the Sales Hunter is trademarked. So, I mean, it's like this guy's in love with sales. So, because it really is about helping you understand, how do you demystify sales? How do you really unpackage all of the mystique around sales and make it be just this, a conversation? Because at the end of the day, my goal is to influence and impact people. If I can do that in a positive manner, I get to come back and do this game again. To me, that's what this book is all about. It's really showing you how to be that individual of influence and impact, and do it with integrity. Please do it with integrity. That's really what the whole book is all about. But I go through, there's a whole series of steps and activities and things you can do, and how to set long-term goals. There's tons of stuff in there.
Awesome.
I like the book.
I would hope so. Well, if the book was anything like this conversation, I'm sure it's a bestseller, and it's going to be a great resource for anyone and everyone out there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it really is. I mean, the comments I get back almost every day. It's been out now for a couple months, every day I get at least one comment back from somebody who said, hey, this has really changed my life. Because it's funny, because people have asked me, said, how did you write the book so fast? And I go, what do you mean? It says, how did you know? Because I launched the book at the end of March, right as COVID was really taking hold. And they said, it's so perfect for right now. It's so perfect. And I said, well, I wrote it a year ago. It's just, God takes care of these things. So you know what? It's the way it is.
Right. Absolutely. All right. I want to jump right into the final four here, Mark. First question I ask every guest is, what's the worst job that you ever had?
The worst job I ever had was the first job I got fired from. I was selling sides of beef. I had no clue what I was doing, but I was told to go out and do it. I was terrible. I hated the company. I hated every employee there. I deserved to be fired. I hated it.
All right. Well, we're not going to get into the gory details of that. But
no, you don't want to.
like it.
I can tell you more about a meat packing plant than anybody you want to know.
Oh boy. Well, so our second question has to do with a book, which is, what is a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
I think the book that has given me a paradigm shift is a book that goes way back years ago, In Search of Excellence. This goes back years ago because it profiled a number of different companies in there that were absolutely fantastic. You know what's interesting? Today, almost none of them are doing well. Wow. So it says, you know what, to me, that's a paradigm shift. It was a paradigm shift when I read it, but now I think back on that and I go, wow, nothing is constant. Everything is in a state of change. You have to adapt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible when you see like these, I don't know if you've ever seen, they have, I don't even know what they're called, like these bar graphs, visualized bar graph things where you see like which companies over the past 3 decades have gone, and it's just like up and down and new people coming and new people going, like all over the place.
It's amazing. I have in a filing cabinet in the back, I keep every Fortune magazine when they come out with the Fortune 500, and you go back 20 or 30 years ago, those companies aren't even around now. Wow. That's scary.
Yeah, which means you have to adapt.
You have to adapt. Yeah.
It's crazy to think about that. So all those Fortune 500 people out there right now, right? Your destiny is not sealed. You got to be.
Well, come on. Let's not put them on their deathbed. I mean, come on. Man, you are dark, man.
Oh my goodness, that's probably the most dark thing I've ever said. The third question is, what is a skill or a talent that you would like to learn?
I never learned how to play the piano. And playing the piano, I've also wanted to get my pilot's license, but I've given up on that one. But somewhere along the line, I really love to learn to play the piano. I know that's crazy, but we have a piano in the house. My wife plays it well, and I don't.
That's great. It's a beautiful instrument. I think a lot of people who play it, and it's interesting. A lot of people give a similar answer on this question. Yeah, not necessarily piano. A few have, but instrument, like picking up an instrument, which
interesting.
It just tells. I guess that just tells me that there's something about playing an instrument that is just kind of, for someone who doesn't do it, it's kind of mesmerizing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So fourth and final question, Mark, what does success mean to you?
Wow. Success is not a destination. It's a journey, and success is about people. If I can help somebody else have a better day, if I can help somebody else in the day looking back and say that, hey, they were pleased, they were thankful that they had an interaction with me. I don't say that boastfully. I don't say that arrogantly. I say it with a sense of humility. Then you know what? That's success. Because if I can help people, then you know what? I've done my job in sales.
That's awesome. I love that answer. It really speaks to me a lot also. I've never heard anyone say it quite like that, which is interesting because I get a different answer for this question from everyone. But I love the way that you phrase that, and the outlook, beautiful. I relate to that very much. So I appreciate you making the time for us today, Mark. This has been a great conversation. I think a lot of people got a tremendous amount of value from this. I know I have. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, thank you so much. Very much appreciate it.
Oh, and to all our listeners, thank you again for joining us. And remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? if you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.